Hello, my name is Waylon Lewis, and every week we'll bring you a new podcast with Elephant Journal. Hey all, this is Waylon. I wanted to touch in on positivity, which is, I think, one of the most misnamed mindsets or approaches to life. I think it's an incredibly negative and dangerous thing. I think being positive, being forward-looking is healthy. I've written about this on Elephant. From a Buddhist point of view, we want to be honest or truthful. And sure, that can come with a sort of glass half full, forward-looking, constructive approach where we have exertion. That's one of the virtues, constant exertion, constant trying. You pick yourself up, you try again. But positivity, now why in the world would that be dangerous? So I was just reading some climate news, and it's overwhelmingly bad. So positivity might look at the truth of climate change, which is devastating to all future generations and present generations who say need water or need stable food or need to not have sort of so-called acts of God, which are really, at this point, the result of human actions in terms of devastating weather, floods, drought, etc. Even earthquakes can be caused by fracking, or are caused by fracking. Not all earthquakes, of course. So if we look at that with positivity being you look at something negative very briefly and then you kind of withdraw from it. You kind of say, no. And you kind of say, this is the world I'm in. This is how I look at things. And it's much more rainbow or rose tinted, which again sounds good because our egos can be very uncomfortable with hard things, with painful things, with that little twitch or twinge in our heart. We want to get away from that often, whether it's in love or in a breakup or in terms of looking at the planet or the effects of our own actions. So it's important to not fall for positivity, but to be able to look at things honestly, kind of like journalists, good journalists who look at everything honestly. And then from then we have good information and we can do good things. So doing good, being wholesome, being positive, that's all beautiful. But positivity, which is sort of bending the truth towards some sort of more comfortable, happy thing, actually turns a lot of people into sort of the Stepford wife quality, where you're like, you have this kind of cold, frozen smile. A homeless person comes up to you, nice. I'm going to move on with my day. Elderly person comes up to you, cool, good luck. A sick person, dying person comes up to you. And fittingly, those were the challenges that the Buddha, when he was awakening to the truth of suffering, those are the challenges that he embraced. Same with Jesus. That's where compassion and empathy comes from. So when we're comfortable with discomfort, then it's not that we're comfortable with it. I think that's too facile, too sort of like secondhand smoke from Brene Brown. It's that we're accepting of it, that we say, okay, this is uncomfortable, this is painful, this is difficult. Let me breathe through it. Let me open up to it. Let me see how I can help. And if it's hurting me, let me see if I can be kind to myself so that I can continue to show up for this world and be helpful. So it's dependent not just on philosophy or ideology, but on meditation practice, on practicing being present, not cutting in an aggressive way, but cutting the solidity of our own sort of thoughts about our life. The bumper sticker, don't believe everything you think. And that's meditation practice, where you say, I'm thinking, and you come back to your breath. You come back to the present moment again and again and again until, that's why it's called a practice, meditation practice, until it's actually habitual for your mind or your ego to wake up to itself and then come back to the breath, which is sort of a crutch or a substitution for the present moment. And because the breath is hard to cling to, it rises, it fades like a wave. You can look up meditation instruction on Elephant Journal. I won't try to summarize it all now, but basically you're taking good posture, saying, to start, may I be of benefit. So it's not all about me. And then you just follow your breath. Rest your attention on your breath. And then when you notice yourself thinking, which is almost all the time, you don't need to get into whether the thought is good or bad, happy or sad. Just say thinking and return to the breath. So when we're not falling for positivity, which again can make us very cold and withdrawn, and if you're attached to that word, maybe just redefine it as being positive. Because positivity, I'll show you what I find troubling about positivity. If I start talking about, I'm vegan, if I start talking about animals suffering, torture, murder, the effect on climate crisis, how climate crisis is hurting everyone, and will do so more, starting with the most vulnerable always, of course. Most people who are engaged in positivity will not want to hear it, will want to sort of say, okay, enough. You've said a sentence or two. I'm not engaged. I'm going to focus on other things. That's the effect of positivity. It weakens our tolerance or our curiosity for the news, not the news in newspapers, but the news of the world. I think from the Buddhist world, we call it phenomenal, the phenomenal world, just from like the messages from the world. So if we are accepting and powerful and courageous and brave and vulnerable, all these wonderful attributes, we can hear all of that and learn from it and say, instead of sitting in stress or fear, hearing it, we can say, how can I help? How am I a part of this? And those are good questions to ask. And then we can look at solutions. Same thing in terms of ice. Same things in terms of really any, in terms of equality or in terms of justice or equity, any issue we look at, our hearts are basically not available if we're concerned first with our feeling happy and relaxed. And as I alluded to with the Stepford wife thing, when our loyalty is to feeling happy and relaxed, it's actually a very stressful place to be because we're constantly trying to push away negative things and cling to positive things. You've been in love, probably, most of you. What's the effect when you try to cling to that love, when you try to put it in a jar and bottle it and hold it really tightly? It's not good. So we don't want to cling to positive things. We want to appreciate them and enjoy them and revel in them and celebrate them. But carpe diem. We know a lot of things are born, they flourish, and then they pass away. So there's always this appreciation of life and death and the finite nature of even the moment. So it's snowy right now. I've been really appreciating the beauty of the snow. I know it's not going to stick here forever, and that's part of what makes it so precious. If it were going to be here forever, it might feel oppressive. Instead, it just feels like Christmassy and holidaysy and cozy and delightful. It's quieting. The dogs love playing in it. It's just so fun. So I was just reading again some climate news, and it felt really negative, which it is. And I'm okay with that because I'm curious and I'm interested and I want to help. And then at the next slide, this was on social, on Instagram, was of a whale. And it was about how one little country is thinking about giving whales rights akin to human rights, meaning they have a right to not be killed or hunted or etc. And that was positive news that I knew as a social media person, everyone would like. So it was just interesting seeing that, like, on the one hand, most people will not like or care or interact with the news about climate, even though it's the most important thing, literally in the entire world, to all future generations, which means your children. But still, most of us habitually don't want to care about that, don't want to like that. And then the next one about a whale, which is important and beautiful, getting rights, we all would like it. And I could put it up on Elephant and it would do great. So let's get out of that mindset of pushing away scary or negative and clinging to good or comfortable. That's sort of a cocoon way of approaching life. And we're not little babies in cocoons. We're sort of peaceful warriors who can engage for benefit in our world.